In November last year, after a highly publicised legal battle, Britney Spears was freed from a brutal 13-year-long conservatorship that put her father in charge of her finances, her healthcare and her personal decisions, effectively her entire life. Well, since then, she celebrated her freedom by posting pictures to her 41 million followers on Instagram. Naked pictures. Well, last week alone, she's posted a series of them. Concerned fans have flocked to social media, as they always love to do. Is Britney okay? Is she having another mental breakdown? Well, I don't think she is. I wrote a column for The Sun this week saying, actually, I think she's expressing the freedom she didn't have for all those years of that conservatorship, which became incredibly draconian. But to discuss all this, I'm joined by music management legend Louis Walsh, his words, not mine, who actually walked with Britney as a judge on X Factor USA in 2012, and Fox Nation host Tommy Lahren, who's an unashamed Britney fan. Well, let's start with you, Tommy. You know, I looked at these pictures. I've got to say, my first reaction was to be a bit concerned. It's like, what's she doing? Because she's got a history of erratic behaviour. But actually, when I read the captions and I saw what she was sort of saying about it, I genuinely felt this is a woman who feels liberated. And she always talked about the time of the conservatorship as being like being in prison. What do you think?
I'm free Britney all the way. She's living her life. She's loving her life. And you know what, Piers? What celebrity doesn't post nude photos or suggestive photos? I mean, scroll through and pick a name, any name. Pick a Kardashian, any Kardashian.
I don't.
They're all posting this kind of stuff. Is it a little bizarre? Sure, it's a little bizarre, but with all the craziness that goes on in Hollywood and in the media with public figures, let Britney be Britney. She's not hurting anybody. She's enjoying her freedom, and let her freak flag fly if she so chooses. It's all up to her. Thank goodness she is finally free.
Yeah, I kind of feel that. Louis, you've got a history with Britney because you did judge X Factor USA with her, and it was a bit of a nightmare, wasn't it? She did one show, I think, and over 2 days was sort of completely out of it, a bit of a diva about everything, and you were worried and maybe
she wasn't in...
Yeah. Tell me about it.
She wasn't in a good place. She wasn't in a good place. But, you know, I'm a fan as well, Piers, and she's a complete survivor. She's 40 years old. She can do whatever she wants. Madonna's taking all her clothes off all the time. Why can't Britney do it, you know? And I just think she's enjoying her life, you know, and she's free. But I'd like her to make a record. I'd like her to have a hit song, get back in studio with Mix Martin or somebody.
Yeah, because I remember watching her perform on the X Factor UK 2 or 3 years before you judged it. I think 2008, 9, something like that. And it was a really shocking performance. And she was only about 27. I thought, this is the beginning of the end. You know, it's really all over for her.
Yeah, I remember.
But when I look at her now...
We tried to...
Yeah, when I look at it now, though, Louis, I think, you know, one great song, and it could be one of the all-time great comebacks, right?
Totally. Max Martin, Britney, you get a hit. Absolutely. And she is a great pop star. She's a household name. She's got really loyal fans, you know, and she can do what she wants. So who's taking the pictures, by the way? It's not her. So it must be her guy.
Well, I mean, she's been with this guy, Tommy, for 5 years. She's pregnant, expecting another baby. Let me just ask you, though, Tommy, even as a sort of super fan, does any part of any of this worry you a little bit in the sense that when someone does get liberated after so long under someone's control, like her father, you know, it can go wrong? Are you worried it might, or do you trust the process here?
I think that, you know, obviously the posts are a little weird. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a Britney fan. I look at them and, you know, I cringe from time to time. But like I said, what celebrity isn't posting weird stuff? What celebrity isn't erratic? We've got so many other celebrities and pop stars and figures changing their gender from one day to the next. Let Britney do what she wants to do. She was miserable under that conservatorship. She said she was miserable. She was acute enough to understand she was miserable in that conservatorship. So you know what? If she's happy now, that's all that matters. Of course, we hope that the family and friends that she's still close to, we hope that they're watching over her, and we want the best for Britney, but I think she's going to make a huge comeback. I think she's going to be stronger than ever, and she's going to do it on her terms.
I just realised you actually look a bit like Britney.
Yeah.
Hey, I take that as a major compliment.
I intended it as a compliment. Louis, I've got to ask you before I let you go. Simon Cowell is on the verge of a truly historic moment where it looks like he may actually get married. Do you believe it's going to happen? What's your thought about this?
I don't know. Piers, you know him as much as I do, you know? He loves himself more than anybody else, you know? So Lauren is hanging in there a long time. Maybe he should get married. I don't know. He told me he never would. So I don't know. He's engaged. Lauren deserves it. She's hung around a long time. She deserves it.
She's a lovely lady, actually, Lauren. She's a lovely lady. I've got a feeling he is actually going to finally crumble.
Do you think so?
I think so, yeah.
Do you think he'll get married? Are you going to go?
I don't know. I mean, he's so tight, isn't he? Would you invite anyone to come and drink at his expense? We'd have to see.
We'll have to go. We'll have to go, even if we're not invited.
We should actually be best men, me and you. After all we've done for him for the last 30 years, we should, or we could be wedding crashers. We could be wedding crashers if he's too mean to invite us. Tommy, I want to take you back before we let you go, Tommy. You talked about every celebrity has naked pictures on social media. I don't know if you were familiar with my own work in this genre. So here's my famous Burger King commercial. Which was me in a Burt Reynolds loincloth by a roaring hearth fire. And if you believe that's my real body, you're living in cloud cuckoo land. But anyway, you're right, Tommy, we've all done it. Got to leave it there. Great debate. I'm glad to see Brittany back. I think she's one of the all-time great pop stars. Take care, both of you, Tommy and Louis. Appreciate it. Good evening from London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Well, it's not been a quiet few days, has it? The GOAT has bolted. Cristiano Ronaldo out at Old Trafford after using his bombshell interview with me on this show to set the record straight about what was going on at the club and his concerns. Well, tonight I'm going to set the record straight myself on Cristiano Ronaldo and on that interview, because 1 week on, is still making global headlines.
Breaking news, Cristiano Ronaldo's time at Old Trafford officially over. Manchester United saying that they have mutually parted ways, effective immediately.
All of this stems from that explosive interview with Piers Morgan.
Cristiano Ronaldo has left Manchester United with immediate effect. It follows a TV interview with Piers Morgan where he claimed he felt disrespected.
And then that explosive interview that he had with Piers Morgan saying those very hurtful things about Manchester United.
And after an explosive interview with Piers Morgan, the writing seemed to be on the wall.
Like I said, it was explosive. Well, this show's been at the centre of a true global story, and that story really is only just beginning, because minutes after Ronaldo confirmed he'd leave United by mutual consent, the Glazer family, who own the club, confirmed they're looking to sell. The American family bought Manchester United for $1.3 billion in 2005. Now they may get 4 times that amount. And if that sounds like good business, well, it is for them. But that's precisely why United fans have such a problem with the Glazers, who loaded United with debt and presided over a steady but massive decline on the pitch. They seem more concerned about selling shirts and shares than winning trophies, the opposite of what English football should be about. This is what Ronaldo himself said to me about the Glazers.
The owners of the club, they don't.
The Glazers.
The Glazers, they don't care about the club. I mean, professional sport. As you know, Manchester is a marketing club. They will get his money from the marketing. The sports, they don't really care, in my opinion. The fans, they're always right. I think the fans should know the truth, should know that the players, we want the best for the club.
So did Ronaldo's condemnation of the Glazers force the issue after years of protest by supporters? You can judge that for yourself. But when the biggest superstar in the club's history calls out mismanagement at the very top, how could their position be tenable? Supporters and club legends like Roy Keane and Gary Neville have also slammed the Glazers. Neville even called on Ronaldo to use his status to put them under pressure. Stand up now and speak, he wrote this summer. The club is in crisis. It needs its leaders to lead. Ronaldo's the only one who can grab the situation by the scruff of the neck, ! So Ronaldo did speak out. And the same Gary Neville said he should be sacked.
I don't know what's going on, but since the Sir Alex Ferguson left, I saw not evolution in the club. The progress was zero. Nothing changed. Surprisingly, not only the pool, the jacuzzi, even the gym. Even some points, the technology, the kitchen, the chefs, which is I appreciate, lovely persons. They stop in a time. We see many things that I'm used to see when I was 20, 21, 23, so surprised me a lot.
Well, 13 years after his spectacular first spell at United, Ronaldo returned to find a club that had only gone backwards in his view, and that's the real reason he wanted to do this interview in the first place. He just had enough, and he felt he wasn't getting the respect that his extraordinary career deserved, and nor were the fans getting what they deserve for supporting United week in, week out. Last season, Ronaldo scored 24 goals for a team in total turmoil, one Premier League goal more than Harry Kane, England's captain, who is considered one of the top strikers in the world right now. But still, they blamed Ronaldo. His own coach, Erik ten Hag, disrespected him repeatedly in public. Journalists cashed in on his status for clickbait, many of the stories completely untrue. Ronaldo soaked all this up for a long time, even though many of the stories about him were false and hurtful. No more so than the lie that he skipped pre-season training to force a transfer when in fact his baby daughter was sick in hospital just months after her twin brother had tragically died. Ronaldo told me the executives at the club didn't even believe him. No wonder he felt very little loyalty to them in return. Well, now this chapter in his record-breaking career is over. Many people have accused me of using Ronaldo, speculating that he must surely regret ever sitting down with me. In fact, the opposite is true. He's very happy with everything about the interview. He said what he wanted to say, and he spoke because he wanted to speak. He texted me repeatedly this week. All good, as we said on Friday, when it finally all aired, as he's in Doha now in Qatar to captain Portugal at the World Cup. The future is great, he says, and I reckon for him it probably will be, even at 37. He's a megastar, the biggest icon in football history, with 500 million Instagram followers. Put that in context, 130 million more than his nearest rival, Lionel Messi, his rival for everything. Ronaldo's a merchandising monster. Will make a fortune whichever club he signs for. And he's still a goal machine, too. You don't go from scoring 24 goals last season to a terrible striker in 4 or 5 months. There's been a lot of knee-jerk reaction from some United fans, claiming he's trashed his legacy at the club. Really? Literally one of the greatest to ever put on a United shirt. You were lucky to have him, lucky to watch him. Show him a bit more respect. Ronaldo won't take a penny to leave. He's foregone any of his remaining £17 million left on his deal. All he wants is his freedom and to go and try his luck somewhere else where he hopes he'll be given more respect. And if his legacy is ultimately to get rid of the Glazers from Manchester United and English football, all those people criticising him now will probably be cheering him and saying, thank you, Cristiano. And on the subject of football and thanks, my sincere thanks also go to the first team that manages to get through a day of this tournament without a pathetic piece of virtue signalling. Today, it was the Germans. You might have been following this increasingly ludicrous debate over whether people should wear armbands to show their support for the LGBT community. Full disclosure, I'm completely supportive of all LGBTQ rights. Always have been. But I never understood this whole thing about the armband. I want players to play football at the World Cup, not a virtue signal. And it's all gone exactly how I predicted, which is that actually, when they were threatened for the first time with a booking, which is someone waving a yellow card at them, they've all capitulated. The German team today did this. I mean, really? This is to send a point to FIFA that they've been silenced, they've been gagged, they can't wear their armbands. Oh, get over yourselves. It's honestly embarrassing. England have been embarrassing about this. The captain, Harry Kane, was going to wear his armband, show his great support for the community. OK, we'll do it then. Wear your armband. Don't then bottle it because you might get a yellow card. If any player right now at the World Cup wears one of these armbands, which I don't think they should be doing anyway, because I don't think it'll achieve anything, any one of them did it right now and got a booking, they'd be global heroes, probably get a knighthood. But none of them have got the balls. Listen to Ray Winston, one of my favourite actors, about what he said about this today.
Harry, you can't let them tell you what to do. Wear the armband, they're going to book you. If they book you, they'll probably send you off, and if they do, again.
Exactly. Can you imagine if Harry Kane got sent off for wearing an armband supporting One Love? All hell would break loose, and not at him. He'd be a hero around the world. To then bottle it, honestly, embarrassing for Harry, for England, for the FA, and for the Germans to do what they did today. And I keep thinking, if you don't focus on the football, you know what happens? Germany got beaten by Japan. That's what happens when you're more worried about than you are about stopping goals flying in the back of your net. Well, I'm rejoined, in fact, by a guest I had last night, Fred Hagen, who was on board the last two Titan missions, and those two of the people on board, Stockton Rush and Paul Henry Nargeolet. Well, Fred, I'm really sad to speak to you again now that we know the news, which I think we both probably feared yesterday but didn't want to say, that very sadly everyone on board has lost their lives. What is your reaction to what we just heard?
Well, Piers, as you can imagine, sitting here listening to this press conference while waiting to talk to you has made this much more difficult than I anticipated. And I can only say that the world has lost two radiant points of light with Stockton and PH. And as we talked yesterday, these men were great men who tried greatly and risked everything. And I want their epitaph to be what Teddy Roosevelt said, that the credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, and who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And that, to me, is the true epitaph of Stockton Rush and P.H. Nargeolet and their companions. And I'm very sorry. It was just devastating sitting here listening to the realization of what we all feared and then trying to express my feelings moments later. I apologize.
Fred, there's no apology obviously needed at all. I know from our conversation yesterday how personally moved you've been by this. The rest of the world has watched on in sort of mounting horror as this story has unraveled. For you, it was incredibly personal. You've been on this vessel. You've been on the last two Titanic missions in 2021 and 22 with Stockton Rush, with your friend PH. He'd been down to that wreckage 30 odd times, I think, and brought back so many extraordinary things for the world to see. He was a genuine historian in that sense. We're looking at a picture of you all now. It's a desperately sad time for you and for everyone who knew them, their friends, their families, everyone. And it's a sad time, I think, for the world to look on and see people who ultimately, as I said yesterday, I got very angry about the reaction from certain people about the fact that they were wealthy people paying to go down there and so on. To me, they were intrepid explorers. It doesn't matter how much money you have. They're intrepid explorers. And some are paid to be there and some were being paid to be there. It makes no difference. The goal was to go down and find new information which could shed light on one of the great tragedies of the history of this planet, which was the sinking of the Titanic. And I commend them for the courage that it took to do that. And I think that their death is an absolute tragedy. But they should be remembered as heroes who went down there. I wouldn't go down there. I mean, I admire you for doing it. You know, it's an extraordinary thing to want to do.
And Piers, I'd like to say that right now at this point in time, the death toll from the Titanic tragedy has risen from 1,517 to 1,522, and may God rest their souls.
Yeah, I mean, it is an eerie thing, isn't it, when you think about the Titanic and the huge death loss, as you say, and the fact they were going down there to see there and have now lost their lives. There was a very poignant interview, actually, with the older sister of Shahzada Dawood, who said she felt absolutely heartbroken that both her brother and, of course, her nephew, who's only 19, is a student at Strathclyde University. And this is Asma Dawood, who was the aunt of that young boy and the sister of his father on board as well. I feel like I've been caught in a really bad film, she said, with a countdown, but you didn't know what you're counting down to. I've personally found it incredibly difficult to breathe thinking of them. She then said that her nephew didn't want to go on the submersible, but agreed to take part because it was important to his father, a lifelong Titanic obsessive. The Suleiman, she said, wasn't very up for it and was terrified, explaining the 19-year-old had expressed his concerns on the family member. But that is, of course, part of, I guess, the adventure. And yes, it's ended in appalling circumstances. It's cost that young man his life. But his father obviously was enthralled by the history of this and wanted to be part of that history and to go down there and to explore. And again, I think it's a heroic and noble thing to do that kind of thing. Most people don't get the chance to do it and don't have the inclination to do it.
Most people live lives of quiet desperation, and these men lived large. They realized their dreams, they pursued them, and they should be celebrated.
It's been revealed by the Coast Guard. It doesn't appear to be any connection between the underwater banging noises that were identified yesterday coming every 30 minutes and the location of where this debris was found. So they seem to be saying there doesn't appear to be any connection there. Does that suggest to you, Fred, that this catastrophic implosion may have happened quite quickly after they went down? What would be your reading of this?
Well, clearly it happened very quickly. I was originally critical of the fact that those in command did not allow the Brits to immediately mobilize the Magellan. And obviously that was because they'd heard a seismic event and they interpreted it as a catastrophic failure. And then those noises were heard and there was a change of heart. The French came last night. They showed up on site for their beloved PH. And, I believe that the Magellan was finally mobilized. And that was as a result of hearing those knocking noises. But yes, at this point, clearly there was a catastrophic failure on the descent. And while we're all devastated by the loss of these wonderful human beings, at the same time, there's another little part of me that is relieved that they have not spent the last several days dying slowly in the most horrific, nightmarish condition.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. From what I've read, when this kind of implosion occurs, it literally takes milliseconds and nobody on board would even be aware of it. It is catastrophic and instant.
That is correct. And at least they were spared any suffering. And that is some solace to PH's daughter and to the families, to Stockton's widow, Wendy, and to all the others. I didn't know the other passengers, but it is a small solace.
You talk about PH, this extraordinary man. He served in the French Navy for 25 years. He was known as Titanic's greatest explorer. According to his biography, he was widely considered the leading authority on the Titanic shipwreck. What was he like as a man, Fred?
Well, you would never have known that he was the preeminent deep diving expert on Earth. He was a consummate professional, but you would sit down with him and he would be just as warm and relaxed as your oldest friend. And as someone else said, whether he was just as comfortable on the deck of a ship in a tornado as he was sitting in a Parisian cafe. I mean, that was very true. And that was PH. He was very down to earth. He was both incredibly accomplished and incredibly humble.
You've been on this. You've been on the same missions. Did you have moments, Fred, where you felt unnerved, scared even? I mean, how intimidating is the experience of doing this kind of journey?
It can be very intimidating. PH would always be calm, and there are some people that are just calm under stress, and I like to think I'm one of them. There were a few moments when we got kind of the currents pulled us into the ship, and we were momentarily entangled, and I know that others on the sub were maybe more unnerved than and they wanted to immediately ascend. For my part, I wanted to see the stern, and one of the experiences I had last year is we went all around the bow and explored it, and I wanted to go to the stern on the same day. I wanted to be the first person to see both pieces on the same day. And we tried. And when we got back, Wendy and Stockton were both incredulous and saying, well, what on earth were you doing? Why were you trying to get to the stern? And of course, I was blamed for our perseverance. So I'm not sure if I answered your question or addressed it, but yes, there were moments, but they did not in any way diminish my appetite to experience the Titanic and experience this wonderful adventure with PH and Argelais. And I'll always treasure that event, and I'll always treasure his friendship.
We have a statement just in from the British Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly. Tragic news that those on the Titan submersible, including 3 British citizens, have been lost following an international search operation. The UK government is closely supporting the families affected and expresses our deepest condolences. Stockton Rush, inevitably, I guess, as the CEO and founder of OceanGate, he's come under, in the last few days, a lot of criticism along with the company for maybe cutting corners and not doing enough to make the Titan properly secure for this kind of mission. You know, I don't think we should labour that point now that he's so sadly lost his life. But what is your response, Fred, to that particular criticism that it wasn't really ready to do this kind of thing?
The only criminal act was the failure of governments to properly fund science and deep water exploration. What Stockton did was to pursue cutting edge technology to take human beings into a realm where they've never gone before. You know, previously you had government funded submersibles, maybe that whole 1 or 2 people that have gone that deep. You've never had anyone try to democratize the depths, trying to take humanity where it never belonged, it was never able to access. And I look at it kind of like the original flyers, as I mentioned previously. The Wright brothers took off and left the surly bonds of Earth. Do you know how many people died trying to make aviation safe and where anybody could participate safely? They died by the hundreds, by the scores, and they gave their lives trying to, stretch the envelope, to exceed expectations, to go further and farther and faster. And Stockton was doing that. He was doing it in the depths of the ocean, which is the great frontier on Earth, the last unexplored region of Earth, which is so critical to our own future and critical to the preservation of life on Earth.
And Hamish Hardy.
And I'll just add. I'm sorry, Piers. I'll just add that a lot of the criticism that's mounting up. I hear things. I can't tell how many times I've heard about the joystick. It's a video game joystick, and it's that's funny, and people laugh and they make fun of it. Well, that's the difference between a government-funded project and a brilliant entrepreneur who is trying to push boundaries. The government would have spent tens of millions of dollars designing a joystick that would have worked perfectly and brilliantly. Stockton Rush was able to find a joystick that worked just as efficiently by using a video game controller. And one thing I know beyond any doubt is whatever happened to that submersible, it had nothing to do with the video game controller.
Fred, I'm so sorry that this has ended the way it has for your 2 great friends. It's a very sad day, I think, for everyone who's ever been down on that expedition to the Titanic, and to lose people who've so experienced, so attached to that, must be a huge loss to you, both professionally, I guess, and also obviously personally. And I really appreciate you joining me so soon after that news was broken.
Thank you, Piers. And I'll say again, thank you so much for your attitude and for your gracious handling of this tragedy. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. And I know the family does too.
Well, thank you, Fred. And I mean it. I'm sincere about that. I think these people are heroic when they do this kind of thing. And to attack them because of how much money they may have is completely missing the point to me. Fred Hagen, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, just to recap for viewers who are tuning in, the very sad breaking news that the Titan submersible, which had been missing for 3 days, down near the wreckage of the Titanic. Sadly, it's now transpired, suffered a catastrophic implosion. We don't know exactly when that happened, but debris from the vessel was discovered at about 2:30 p.m. UK time this afternoon, just before 9 a.m. Eastern time in America. They discovered a series of items from the debris which were identifiable as coming from the Titan, including a nose cone, the front end of the pressure hull, the back end of the pressure hull, which made it clear this was indeed the missing vessel. And very sadly, that also meant that all 5 of the people on board had lost their lives. So a very sad end to a story which has gripped the world. So I'm joined now by Farida and Hamid. Well, welcome to both of you to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Farida, let me just start with you, if I may. What is your understanding of what the new Taliban ruling is in relation to female television presenters in Afghanistan?
Thank you so much. Last week, the Taliban announced a new decree and restriction on women, especially for the women who are appearing on the screens and they presenting the news or other social programs. So my understanding from these decrees that the Taliban want to remove this step by step from public life, and they decided that women should be just sitting at home and they are not allowed to go out. This is my understanding, and this is a big concern that I have about this issuing of degrees that the Taliban just in 9 past months, they just putting on the women.
Hamid, you and other male presenters decided that you were going to protest on behalf of your female colleagues by also wearing masks on air. Tell me about that decision.
By the time when we received the decree, when we were ordered to, especially our female colleagues, to put mask on while on air, so we collectively decided to go for a strike and support our female colleagues at this very critical situation. And that the message that we want to convey with this move was to let the facto authorities that this is not the way that they want to impose Islam for us, or they want to define Islam. And at this very critical situation, women, especially our female colleague, did not feel alone, that no one is there behind to support them. Altogether, we decided, we went on air with mask up, and it has a very huge reactions, or on the social media as well. We were being supported by the civil community as well. We decided, we went on that, we supported them, and we will do that. We ended the protest though, but still we have the same stance on that. We still want to support our female colleagues at any time with any means that we can do it. That was a civil gesture because we knew there are so many different misinterpretation of hijab. That's why we opposed that. If it's something, we never opposed any decree by the Taliban. Why we opposed this is because there is no clear definition. They have to clear it. What is hijab? Hijab in Islam for us, we are also Muslims, we as well know what is hijab. For female colleagues, like hijab is to cover the whole body, the entire body, except like from forehead to chin. It's all fine. Their hands, it should be visible. It's not a big deal. Like putting mask or asking them to wear mask is something that they want to gradually remove women from the society, or they don't want them to give the rights that they have as human beings. And this is a small step being taken by the de facto authorities in order to facilitate for a bigger move. The bigger move, I mean, is that maybe in a very short span of time, they will be asked just to not appear on the screen anymore, or just they will be asked to sit inside homes, and you are not allowed to get out of your homes without any female muharram, as they already clearly stated that. So that's why we protested, and so we ended that. But still, we have the same. Our view hasn't been changed on the matter. As long as we are we do not satisfied with a clear interpretation of hijab, we will support this and we will still remain on our stance very clearly.
Well, Hamid, I think it's very courageous of you men to be doing this in support of your female colleagues. Farida, let me ask you, it's also very courageous for both of you to be speaking out to the world's media in the way that you are right now. Are you not concerned or fearful of what the Taliban may do if you do interviews like this?
Yeah, I'm concerned. I said that before that the Taliban announced degrees about the hijab, they are get steps. Some announced other orders about women and especially girls. They closed the schools for the girls. They just remove all the organizations support the women, and now they announced that the women, while they are appearing on the screen, they should be covering their face. And in this order, they clearly state that the best hijab is burqa, that the woman should be wearing burqa. The things that is impossible while we are appearing on the screen, just we wearing a burqa, this is impossible. And we have a fear that when the Taliban just watching this interview, they will be take some actions like now, while our male colleagues wearing masks, they have some issues. Like in the social media, they posted that while male colleagues wearing masks, they should be wearing shawl or they should be wearing burqa as well, that they show their solidarity with their female colleagues. So we have a concern not just about our security job, like we will be lost our job. We have other security fears, and maybe they target us or maybe they target other family members. We are concerned about all these things.
Well, I think it's extremely courageous of you both to be doing this. And Farida, let me ask you, when I had the Taliban spokesman, Suhail Shaheen, on my program recently, he was adamant that women had nothing to be fearful about, that they would be supportive towards women, and that girls would be allowed back to school in high school. Are you seeing any evidence of any of this?
When the de facto authority of the Taliban, they spoke with some foreign international media or others, they say that we working on the policy that close or that open schools for the senior girls or the girls in all around the country, and they said we work on the policy that how the women can work on the governmental organizations and private organizations. They said that we work on the policy that how make the proper way that the women work out at home. They just said about the policy. But look, in the past 9 months, what the Taliban do for the women, they just gave orders, they just issue a decrees, and they put more restriction and limitation on the women. But in Afghanistan, maybe their families out of Afghanistan, they go to schools, they go to universities, and they just analyzing these situations, and they never come to Afghanistan. Like I never have seen Suhail Shaheen come to Afghanistan. They just, what is going on in Afghanistan? I showed that he never come to Afghanistan. Just they talk with international media from online, and they have other maybe something that they have some immunity and in the foreign countries, and they never come to Afghanistan. They just give how the situation are going on, and when they talk, they never talk about what is reality in Afghanistan. I'm in Afghanistan, I'm in Kabul, and around the world, the people now say watching us that we covering our face. Just you ask Suhail Shaheen that you said that we will allow all girls that they should go into school. We work on a policy that the women should be work on the private and governmental organization. But why you put more restriction on the women? Like why are they appearing on the screens? They should be covering on their face. And this 21st century. Around the world, the country get promotions and development, but in Afghanistan, it's like a kind of joke that the women, while they're paying on a screen, they should be covering their face. As a woman, when I analyze these situations, I think that the Taliban they're kidding with us. Like they show the world, they do that kind of extremism actions like they do in a remote area of Afghanistan. Now in Kabul, they do the same action with us and they obligated us to wearing our face.
And Hamid, finally, and briefly, if you don't mind, what is your view of the decision by President Biden to withdraw all the American forces overnight, and indeed Britain and other forces withdrew as well? It was so sudden and seemed to just surrender the country back to the Taliban. What is your view of that?
So they would have left even maybe that decision was taken by that government is something that they would not stay here forever in Afghanistan. They were supposed to leave someday, but left in a very chaotic situation that the world knows how the people were suffering. You know, they built 20 years, the government here with trillions of dollars spent, with thousands of lives lost here in Afghanistan, but they give up in a very, very, very simple way. And they they handed over the government to the people that they were fighting over 20 years with them, and they considered them as a terrorist or whatever they called them. No one accepted that. No one expected something that will happen to the Afghans. Anyway, they came right now, the Taliban or the de facto authorities in the country. Now they should take some better steps, not limiting the women's issue only. We have humanitarian crisis here. We are facing economical situation here in the country. People are angry. People do not have food to eat. They just focus on the women issues. They're just trying to crack down the women from the society or whatever they want to do. They have to take some bigger steps. They have to make a better relationship with the international community. They should take a better steps in order to have a good relationship with the outside world, in order to recognize their government. If they keep doing this thing, I'm sure that no one or no country in the world will recognize them, and we people will suffer the way we're suffering, the people are suffering. Their government, anyway, they can survive, but they should think about the nation, that they're going through a very difficult situation at the moment. Women are not only the part of the society that they're focusing on. There are other issues, as I already mentioned that. So better they should do something for this country now. The authorities now, they have responsibility. Government coming to the power or ruling the people is not just something that they have to do. They have a bigger responsibility. They used to fight a government. They used to fight the international community with guns. Now they have to provide the facility for these people, the nation that suffered a lot when they were fighting, you know, like the international community. We were the victims of war, and right now we are the victims of politics as well. We suffer a lot, and we have very small gains right now. We have to save them. People were thinking that the Taliban have changed. Even the international community thought that back in the mid-1990s when they were ruling us. So once they came here on the power, on the very first day, I remember it was 17th August, where their spokesperson very clearly said that the women will have their rights, the people will have their rights, they will make Afghanistan better, there will be future for the Afghans. But these things were all, I think they forgot what they have promised the people on the very first day. People were very eager that, okay, a new government came, the war ended, there's no killing, there's no bloodshed. But right now, nothing as such, no war, no bloodshed, but the people are hungry, the people are going through a very difficult situation. They should take care of such things. They should think that, okay, right now, 30 million, nearly 40 million people are living in this geography. So they need surveys. They need, even if they want to remove women from the public, it means that they want to eradicate the half of population of the country. The population where in the past 20 years helped the nation to progress. They contributed a lot, very actively in the society. How come you just, with a degree an issue, want to remove them from the society? They helped us a lot and led them. And everyone, like Farida herself sitting behind me, like by my side, She studied for more than 20 years. She suffered a lot. She wanted to have a future in the country. She wanted to work for the betterment or for the progress of this country, for the people of Afghanistan. If you want to sideline her, you're not just sidelining herself. It is just like you want to eradicate her hope, her future, whatever she has the plan for the Afghans, and what the achievements that she had in the last 20 years is just, like removing her. So the same like her, we have like thousands of the people in this country where they suffered a lot, where they struggled a lot. It's not easy for them to be removed from the society or the way that they want to work. So Islam has given them the rights. We have to give them their rights. This is their basic need. Like right now, millions of girls are out of the schools. They're deprived. There's no any hope for them to return back. They were given promises that they will return back to the schools. They returned on the day where they were promised, but they sent them back with like thousands of the people, millions of girls with the teary eyes. They went back to their homes with no hope for them. So this is not the way to govern. It's better to be very practical. It's better to think, like we have to adjust ourselves with the reality of today. And the reality is that this generation that is talking to you is totally different from the generation that they were ruling back in 1996 to 2000. So we are not ready to accept the things that contradict both the culture and our religion. And we'll stand, we will resist as long as we can do it. We know that there might be many threats, there might be many risks, but if we do not accept risks today, it means that we are going to surrender very easily, and we are going to give up very easily. It's something that we don't want to do. We have to make a change altogether. We do not want to oppose them with any form, with any means, but as long as the decrees, the announcement contradict Islam and culture, we will stand. We don't. I don't think that I'm scared of anything. Anything happens, it's okay. Let's happen. But let the other generation, which comes after us, at least live in peace, in prosperity, and dignity with what we are doing today. And that's what I hope. If they're watching the interview that we're doing, they should consider that we are not the generation that they were ruling back in 1996. We're changed. We have a different mentality. We want to all together want to peace or live in peace and coexistence and work for a better country. That's what we want from them, and that's what let's contribute. Let's not oppose each other. This is the message that we have. By issuing ordering, you cannot constrain this limit. You will limit it to maybe for a very short span of time, but in the long term, this is something that might be not good for their government. And if you want to govern, you're governing us, the people, the nation. If the nation is not happy from you, they do not want to coordinate with you, the behavior that you have, I'm not sure that any government can survive without their nation or without having a very close relationship. This is not what I mean. Is like let's support each other. Let's take a very close look at the reality of our today. Let the women get back to their jobs. So they have been wearing hijab the way they're asking them. People, we are Muslims from long back, and our female, our women have been wearing hijab, practicing Islam from the very long back. It's not like this is the first year, 1 year or 2 years that we are practicing Islam. It's not the way. It's just, like they're making pretexts in order to remove women. I hope they consider these things. Let the women get back to their life. Let them enjoy their freedom that God has given them, that Islam has given them. Let the girls come back to schools. Millions of girls are waiting just for a decree asking them to return to their school. There are millions of people. It's not only millions of people. There are millions of hopes, millions of lives, these are what we want from them, and I hope they consider we are supportive. We are from the same nation. We are the same people. If you don't join hands together, I don't think that we will survive or they will survive. And I hope they watch this and reconsider or revive their decisions or their decrees that they are ordering or they have been issuing. And since they took over, the international community knows, the world knows that they are just issuing decrees on women issues only. There are so many other subjects. Come on, let's work for those things as well. Let's get rid of the bigger problems that we have. Why women only? I don't know. No one is asking them why women only. I have watched your interview with Soil Shine. She has 2 daughters. Both of them are going to school. Both of them attend school. They may have a better future maybe in the other countries. But people like Farida, who is sitting here, where she's, as I tell, like studied more than 20 years, she will just, like end it up with having no future with nothing. But it's a double standard. They have to understand that we know that their children, offspring, are going to schools, attending universities, international kind of a thing. But we do not have this right to go to our school inside the country. This is what we don't expect them. We don't want at any cost. This generation will oppose it at any cost. Even if it costs our life, we will stand no matter what happens at the end.
Well, Hamid and Farida, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I admire your courage enormously as fellow journalists. I think it's disgraceful what is going on in your country. I think it's disgraceful the way we abandoned your country. I think it's horrendous the way that women are being treated. And as Hamid said, there are many other horrendous issues going on as well. But I admire both of you for what you've been doing. It takes a lot of guts to do this. And I wish you all the very best. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.